not doing big business at that time. It was not a big money territory. Now, Fritz had drawn ballpark crowds with Gene Kiniski and Dory Funk Jr. In Dallas for the big NWA World Title matches when he was still there. But now Fritz was in the late 70s on the downhill slide before they started the Boys. Paul was still the jewel, and when he threw his alignment with a different booking office, it shook things up. But you were pretty much, you were in at that point. You'd stooged your way in pretty good. How did that get over in the Texas wrestling community?
Wow. Bruiser Brody.
What caused it?
What caused it was simply Paul didn't feel that Fritz was getting that great of talent, and it was a battle. Paul wanted to bring New York's finest, Bruno. Everybody had heard of Bruno. Oh my God, Bruno. He brings Bruno in, and to the Houston audience, they shit all over Bruno. Hated him.
I heard that.
It was like watching paint dry.
He took care of Gino.
He took care of Gino.
As best you know, the rumor was always that should I come out and just say that?
Yeah, the rumor was that Gino was Paul's son.
Yeah.
And but you want to hear something funny? I never heard that rumor until I went to New York in 1987.
Really? Nobody talked about it in Texas.
I was that close to Paul that I guess it was never brought up to me. Shut his door. He took the call. He came out and was like you could see it in his body when he walked out of the office. I was like, Gino's dead. And he was different. Freddie Blassie, one of the greatest guys I ever met, ever had the pleasure of being around in my life. And used to go down and sit in Freddie's office and talk, and he's like, goddamn kid, that fucking Gino, that's Paul's kid. I'm like, huh? You know, and he tells me the story.
What was Brody like in those days?
God, I enjoyed the hell out of him because he was always stoned. Brody doesn't want to work. So he goes to the ring.
Was that one of his sit-downs?
Sits down in the middle of the ring, Indian style, arms crossed. And Duggan is stomping around and like looking at him, doesn't know what to do, has no clue what to do. Robley is Duggan's manager.
But also Brody's friend.
Brody's friend
he's kind of
and
supposed
Booker.
To be and the Booker. He's supposed to be the guy keeping this whole thing together, right?
Paul's doing commentary, and Brody is sitting down, and Buck Robley is on the apron going, Frank, please, Frank, we'll work it out. Please, Frank, please. And he's doing this shit. The deal with San Antonio was, you get San Antonio, you get Tully. Friction between Wahoo and Tully just became too much to where Wahoo said, I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm going to Charlotte. I'm out of here. Where he went to Tampa. And so now we're without a booker. So you're without a booker, what do? You put the kid in charge. So now Tully's the booker. You know, Gary was Gary. Yeah. And if you know Gary, Gary's a creative guy. I loved Gary. Gary was one of the first old-timers that kind of took me in and explained things to me. Would sit there and go, kid, you know, what do you think about this? And
you do a rotten Gary.
I do a horrible Gary Hart. I know.
Gary. Here would be, you see, brother, here's the thing.
Yeah.
You go down to Halstead Street in South Chicago.
That's horrible.
Brother,
it sounds like Jim Cornette.
You know,
God damn, then you go down the street.
The Briscoe side of things, and some people in the NWA thought that, well, it's Dory Sr., who was very powerful, didn't want his son to lose to another babyface, especially when the Briscoe Funk Texas-Oklahoma rivalry. It was, folks, it was still real to them, and there was hundreds of
thousands.
It's
still real to them now.
To them
Trust
now.
me.
So O'Connor's in the ring to make sure that Wahoo does not double-cross Harley Race out of the NWA title.
Right. So, now I'm ringside for this. I'm ring announcer. And they have their match, and they are...
I am still just, I'm seeing these under 30s out here watching this going, my God, it was this important. And yes...
You don't understand. It was, yes. When the big bad Northerners came in, we were able to hold them off, and not only hold them off, kick their ass.
Yeah.
So instead of worrying about your home, it's like, well, by God, he's going to come in my home, I'm going to go into his. So let's go do what he's doing, we'll show him how to do it. And he took his eye off of home base.
Paul's lips were still chapped about it because his comment in his book on what should be on Vince McMahon's headstone was, "Here lies Vince McMahon Jr. who destroyed faith in the handshake." Serving as television host for 20 years and promoter for 20 more, Paul Boesch became synonymous with pro wrestling for millions of Houstonians. A wrestler, war hero, and author, Boesch's reputation for honesty and integrity to both fans and wrestlers alike was rivaled only by the legendary Sam Muchnick of St. Louis. A handshake with Boesch was more binding than any contract ever written. Wrestlers repaid him with their loyalty and fans with their support, making Houston, Texas a mecca for wrestling action for almost half a century. Houston wrestling lasted 6 years longer than the time from the Wright brothers' first flight to mankind's first footsteps on the moon. It featured the best wrestlers in the world battling it out before the world's most loyal fans. And this is its story.